Liani walked out of the elevator and saw Zhouji's front door wide open, with a real estate agent on the phone outside. She hurried over without even changing her shoes, pulled Zhouji to the side in the living room, and asked quietly, "Why are you selling the house?" Zhouji sighed, "I can't accept the company going bankrupt. I want to give it one last shot. If I don't sell the house, the cash flow will be cut off." Upon hearing this, Liani felt a chill in her heart as she looked around the house she hadn't yet moved into. She couldn't help sobbing, "But this is our wedding house." Zhouji spoke gently but with a hint of guilt, "I'm sorry, Ani. I thought about it and still can't give up. When I first started my business, things were even harder than now, but I made it through alone, without relying on my family. So please believe in me again this time, support me. I can buy it back in the future." Liani felt her tense body and nerves instantly relax in exhaustion. She forced a bitter smile and closed her mouth in despair. This apartment was bought and furnished by Zhouji himself many years ago, before they even met. And now he wanted to sell it, even though they weren't married yet, and her idea of it being their wedding house was just her own wishful thinking. Since Zhouji had told her about selling the house, it meant he respected her to a certain extent. What right did she have to object? She was just confused. She was 28 this year, from a small country town. She had struggled in the marriage market before finally landing Zhouji, who was excellent in every way. Her plan was for them to get married by the end of the year and live a happy life together afterwards. But now their carefully laid out future was disrupted, and she didn't know what to do next. She was devastated not just because of the house. This was simply the last straw. Zhouji's small company had been operating at a loss for a long time, and he had been covering the losses from his own pocket. Liani's attitude towards this had fluctuated. At first, she thought it was just a temporary cash flow issue. She kept encouraging Zhouji and was extra considerate. Later, when Zhouji devoted himself fully to rescuing his small business and had no money left to spend on her, she finally realized the difficulties were not temporary. But she remained optimistic. At worst the company would close, and with Zhouji's capabilities he could easily find a high-paying job, so their life would still be comfortable. Until now, she finally understood Zhouji would not act solely based on her expectations for their lifestyle and quality of life. He had his own considerations. After the agent left with the buyer, Zhouji stood gazing out the floor-to-ceiling window. Liani slowly went up to him and cautiously asked, "How much can you sell the house for?" "Zhouji, my asking price is 8.7 million. They'll probably bargain a little, but I think it can sell for 8.5 million. You can tell they really like the house." Liani wouldn't give up and asked again, "So are we going to buy a smaller place temporarily?" "Zhouji, no, the money all has to go into the company. If we don't live with my parents, we'll probably have to get married and rent a place. But don't worry, I'll earn it back." Liani felt her heart go sour and her vision blurred. At this moment, she was angry. She badly wanted to grab Zhouji's collar and yell at him, "How can you still mention getting married? What do we have left to get married with? If I was willing to get married and rent a place, why would I need you? Why is your company the only thing in your mind? Why don't you just get a stable job and earn a few $100,000 a year comfortably? That's not good enough for you?" But she had no right to blow up like this. Talking purely about money went against the image she had crafted. Yes, in this relationship she had carefully and benevolently pretended to be someone who didn't care about Zhouji's money, so that everyone would believe she was with Zhouji not for money. She had no choice. She could never have gotten together with Zhouji otherwise. They had been dating for 3 years but kept delaying marriage, because for 2 of those years Zhouji's parents had strongly opposed their relationship. Zhouji's parents looked down on Liani. They saw her as a small-town girl with retired parents of humble means, and a dependent brother. They thought she had no career prospects and was just trying to cling to Zhouji out of ulterior motives. All these complaints were valid. The 2 families were poorly matched. With Zhouji's status at the time, he could have easily found someone local with a better background. To break through and seize this opportunity to change her fate, Liani endured humiliation and tried every trick. She sucked up to Zhouji's parents with gifts, worked hard to get promotions at work, but none of it worked. Finally she had no choice but to agree to a prenuptial asset agreement. If they divorced in the future, Zhouji's assets and company profits would have nothing to do with her. Only then did his parents relent. The prenup was not Liani's true wish, it was a stalling tactic. She had always been very clear that her top priority was to marry Zhouji first. She didn't care about the prenup anyway, since she had never envisioned getting divorced. She hated her own parents and brother, and would not leech off Zhou Ji to support them. There was no ulterior motive. She believed that after marrying Zhou Ji, she would devote herself wholeheartedly to their family and bear him children. Eventually his parents would accept her, and they would grow old together. Perhaps she had been too focused, and failed to consider their romance may run into other problems before marriage. For example, the very basis for her persistence in marrying Zhou Ji might collapse. A few days later, Zhou Ji successfully sold the house for the full asking price of 8.5 million renminbi in cash. Zhou Ji immediately took the money and frantically rushed around the country chasing deals with his team, with no time for Liani. Without his own house, Zhou Ji moved back in with his parents. Liani continued living frugally in her rented apartment, confused and lost while still playing the role of virtuous fiancé, caring about Zhou Ji's sleep and meals. Out of reluctance, she even sold off several handbags Zhou Ji had gifted her in the past, and transferred him the money to show support during his difficult time, moving him deeply. Her demonstrated willingness to tough times together improved their relationship. It also completely changed Zhou Ji's parents' attitude. One day while chatting on WeChat, Zhou Ji said his parents asked him to bring Liani home for dinner. Liani read the message and laughed coldly while tossing her phone aside. Leaning against the headboard, she stared blankly at the ceiling, lost in thought. The upstairs neighbor's apartment had suffered a major water leak before. Liani's bedroom ceiling had been thoroughly soaked. The landlord had it patched up after getting compensation, but marks remained. Her mood right now was like that damaged ceiling. She had long awaited this acceptance by Zhou Ji's family, but their past mistreatment was etched permanently in her heart. In the past, for the sake of her bright future, she was willing to endure the humiliation. But things were different now. The Zhou Ji today was no longer the successful, confident Zhou Ji of the past. A few days later, Zhou Ji returned from a business trip. He had lost weight and his brows remained furrowed, indicating this trip had likely been fruitless as well. Liani casually remarked, "It looks like we really will have to rent an apartment after getting married." Without thinking, Zhou Ji said, "I guess you'll have to bear with it for now. You know my parents aren't poor, but relying on them goes against my principles. I already feel guilty enough not being able to support them financially, how could I burden them further? But trust me, even if the company can't turn itself around this time, I still have the ability to put down a mortgage down payment on an apartment. I can at least provide that much." Liani didn't respond. But later, when Zhou Ji brought up her visiting his parents for dinner again, she twirled the pasta on her plate with a fork and casually made an excuse. "I can't do this weekend, I'm getting together with some college classmates, a few are back from overseas. If I don't see them now I don't know when I'll see them again, it could be years." Zhou Ji looked at her for a moment, then gently said, "Okay, we'll go some other time." The next day on her way out, Zhou Ji spoke to Liani as if comforting her but also pumping himself up. "I know you disapprove of me staking everything on this, but if I don't do this now, I'll regret it my whole life. Even if the money runs out and it still doesn't work, then I'll give up for good. At least then I won't have regrets when I look back in the future." Liani scoffed internally. People from wealthy families really are different from poor people like herself. Throwing millions away just to avoid lifelong regret? Not having lifelong regrets sure was valuable. At this point she had completely lost hope in Zhou Ji, she even hated him a little. This man had included her in his plans for the future, but did not include her in his money. When he sold the house and gambled away the money, he gave no thought to what kind of life she would have in their marriage afterwards. He had been comfortable since childhood and put spiritual pursuits above all else, but had no empathy for a woman who grew up in poverty and feared starting from nothing again with him. Liani wanted to break up. She was beginning to understand why Zhou Ji's parents had opposed their relationship, and truly felt the discomfort of their doors not matching. She was tired of pretending, and now lacked motivation to keep pretending, since Zhou Ji was unlikely to recover soon. Moreover, Zhou Ji himself said they would still have to scrimp and save after marriage to buy and furnish an apartment. There was no need for Liani to hold on until now just to marry such a man. Most importantly, she could not suddenly change her nature and become fixated on money. She would still have to pretend otherwise. But what was the point of enduring this torment for a man without a house, car, money, with hostile parents, idealistic personality, but just maybe decent career prospects? Pretending was exhausting. For example, she wanted to break up now but didn't dare bring it up. It would be inappropriate to leave Zhou when he was down on his luck. Also, she had built up such a lofty image that initiating a breakup now would shatter the public perception that she had never cared about Zhou's money. But she still wanted to break up, she just needed a more passive reason. The breakup reason Liani wanted came quickly. After Zhou returned from another business trip, whenever they met up he would take calls and avoid her. This had never happened before. She thought nothing of it the first couple times, but it became very strange when it occurred daily. Once while they were eating kebabs at a small restaurant in a narrow alley, Zhou took a call and left the table. Liani waited for a while but Zhou still didn't return, so she could no longer resist her curiosity. She slipped out to follow his voice and eavesdropped from where he couldn't see her. Sure enough, it was not a business call. The coaxing tone and indulgent laughter were how Zhou used to talk to her when they were madly in love. Since she had tried hard to understand Zhou to win him over in the past, she knew him well. He would never talk like this with a client or normal friend. The only possibility was that the call was from a new lover or romantic interest. When Liani realized this, she had mixed feelings. It would be a lie to say she wasn't heartbroken. How could she not be? She had loved Zhou so wholeheartedly. But when she thought about it, she didn't feel as heartbroken as she expected, because the Zhou she had loved so hard was not the Zhou today. She had wanted to leave anyway, and now someone was taking the baton at Zhou's time of need to accompany him. That was a good thing too. This allowed her to make a graceful exit without criticism. Zhou's cheating was practically a blessing for everyone. When Zhou returned from the call, Liani did not confront him and pretended to know nothing. She was waiting for an opportunity, she needed more direct evidence. Half a month later, on a weekend, the two had a customary dinner together. During the meal Zhou went to the restroom, leaving his phone on the table. Liani stared at it for a long time, feeling she had lost the patience to keep waiting for the right opportunity. Why not take a look? It was rare he left his phone behind. Maybe she'd find something, since catching him red-handed in bed wasn't so easy. So, just to test her luck, she unlocked Zhou's phone. Right on top of his WeChat chat history was an unfamiliar woman's profile photo. The woman had flirtatious exchanges with Zhou back and forth. Liani scrolled numbly through their chat history on the phone screen. By the time she realized she had been reading for a while, she suddenly noticed Zhou standing diagonally in front of her. Zhou had a solemn expression, as if Liani had stumbled upon not evidence of his cheating, but confidential company documents. Liani figured she might as well drop the act. She held up the phone and waved it at Zhou, then put it back down on the table. When Zhou sat back down, she asked, "How long has this been going on?" Zhou thought for a moment, around 2 months probably. We met at an industry conference on my last business trip. He paused, then added, "We didn't actually cross the line." Liani nodded. "Is she pretty good?" Zhou, "Yeah, she's quite good. We might collaborate in the future." Liani felt her heart sink. She wanted to squeeze out some tears to dramatize the atmosphere, but couldn't, so she lowered her voice and covered her face to feign crying. "Since this is the case, let's break up. I know you're having a hard time now, and I can't help you with anything." Zhou readily nodded and picked up his phone. As he tapped and swiped on the screen he said, "You know I'm strapped for cash now. I'll transfer you a little, as an expression of my regret. I've wasted several years of your time, and because of my family you were never truly happy." Liani froze while watching Zhou transfer the money. When he put his phone down on the table, she weakly said, "I don't want your money. I wasn't with you for your money." Zhou stared at Liani's face and laughed. "Then what were you with me for? My looks, physique, and personality haven't changed from before to now. The only difference is I had money before and I don't now. Why did you suddenly fall out of love?" "Liani, I'm not stupid. You say you weren't with me for money, but I also wasn't with you because you didn't care about my money. I truly loved you before, and really wanted to marry you for life. Otherwise I wouldn't have fought with my parents for 2 years over you. Just be more honest and candid from now on. Wanting financial security in a partner is normal, you don't have to live so wearily pretending otherwise. I saw through you long ago, so I didn't feel guilty at all getting involved with someone else, because I knew from the moment I sold the house, you had just been waiting for this day." Liani was speechless, at a complete loss for words. Zhou paid the bill, got up and said, "I transferred 50,000 to your account, consider it a token of my regard. Don't feel embarrassed, take it. You need it, you want it too. It was a long time after Zhouji left before Liani opened her banking app and looked at the sudden increase in balance. She had complex feelings. She suddenly felt like she had been a joke these past few years. At this moment, she did not feel heartbroken over the breakup, or lost about the future. She just felt sorry for herself. She had pretended to not care about money in order to marry a man of means, and had even considered keeping up that pretense for a lifetime. Pretending for a whole lifetime. She leaned back in her chair and let out a long sigh. Was this really how she would have to live going forward? She had tried so hard to improve and reinvent herself, thinking every day about how to become better. It was to meet someone of good standing in the first place. Was it really so shameful to admit such ambitions? Being with Zhouji these past 3 years had already been torturous. But the road ahead was still long, and she really didn't want to keep living like this. From now on, she still needed to find a partner of means and marry for those means. If being candid about it could still lead to success in the end, she might finally be able to live an easy life. She didn't want to keep considering whether she'd be scolded or looked down upon, because after these years she had come to understand, being labeled a gold digger from the start, while not actually digging for gold, was still more relaxing than pretending to not be a gold digger for a whole lifetime. Liani straightened her back and shoulders, and strode into the surging crowds. Her ambitions and desires unfurled together. After much meandering, she would become her true self again, the real Liani.